Hey everyone, today we're going to run through an easy way to tie and set up a chod rig. So why would you want to fish with a chod rig? The chod is a unique presentation which allows you to fish a buoyant bait sliding up and down on your main line. This means that whatever your lead lands in, your hook and bait is able to slide up the main line and fall slowly, landing on top of whatever weed, silt or debris there might be on the lake bed. We like to use chod rigs when fishing single hook baits or when we don't want to make multiple casts to try and find gaps in the weed or firmer patches on the lake bed. So let's look at the components that you'll need to tie the chod rig itself. Later on in the video we'll cover the actual leader and lead arrangement, but for the moment let's just focus on the rig itself. Firstly, you'll need some chod filament, your chod hook of choice. A 6 is a good size for 15mm pop-ups. Some tungsten putty to balance the buoyancy of the rig, a chod swivel, some bait floss, and a rig ring. As far as tools go, scissors and a lighter are essential. The first step is to peel and cut off around 8 inches of mouth trap material. Now thread on your hook. Start tying a knotless knot where the material wraps around itself and the hook shank. Once you've wrapped around approximately 7 times, pass the end back through the eye towards the point and pull it down tight. Now take a small rig ring and thread it onto the tag of your chod material. With the ring in place, now pass the tag end back through the eye of the hook. You want to pull it down until you have a neat D shape with the ring sliding within it. Trim the end with your scissors and then take your lighter. You now have to melt the material with the flame. The burning material will shrink down towards the hook, and just before it touches, tap the side of the lighter to create a flat end to the material. This blobbed end will not pass back through the eye as it's too thick. Take the other end of your rig and tie on a chod swivel. The best knot is a blood knot, but as the chod filament is quite thick, you'll only need to wrap round the line 2 or 3 times before passing the end back through the hole you created by the swivel. Wet the knot with saliva to avoid friction weakening the line and then pull it tight. Cut the tag end and blob this with a lighter too. Now it's time to attach your bait. This can be done by threading it onto some bait floss and blobbing the end. You can now begin to shape your chod rig. A slight curve in the material can help the rig twist and catch hold in a fish's mouth. This is not absolutely essential, but many anglers, us included, believe it results in more fish getting hooked. Now your rig is almost finished, but for the bait to be sucked into a fish's mouth easily and to ensure it falls slowly, settling on top of the weeds, it's key to balance the weight of the rig and the pop-up to create a slow sinking chod. The chod swivel has a barrel which you can wrap some tungsten putty around. If you move the putty around and warm it up in your fingers, it becomes more malleable and will stick to the swivel better before setting in place. The perfect amount of putty will make your pop-up sink really slowly, like this. Your chod rig is now tied. If this process seemed a little bit too complicated and you'd rather not mess around, you can also pick up ready-tied chod rigs from your local tackle shop. Now that you've got your actual chod rig, there's 2 different ways that you can mount it on your line. There's a naked chod system, which is designed for fishing your chod just sliding straight on your main line, and there's also a lead core chod system, which is designed for use with either lead core or lead-free leader materials. We're going to cover the mainline option first as it is the simplest. Take your main line and slide the tungsten sleeve up onto it. Then fit a no trace bead onto it like this. Next, slide your chod rig onto your line, followed by a tungsten barrel. Next you'll need a heli sleeve. This is not included in the naked chod system. Slide the sleeve down and then attach your lead of choice. We find it neater if you use some pliers to cut off the swivel from your lead. Then when you attach it to your line, it all tucks down inside the sleeve. So now your whole setup should look like this. Set the barrel apart from your lead. The distance is up to you, but all it really does is keep your rig away from the lead during the cast. Now set your no tray speed apart from the barrel. This gives movement for the rig and allows it to slide up and away from weed or silt. If you know the weed is only very close to the bottom, then there's no need to set this bead very far up the line. However, if weeds are coming a long way up off the lake bed, then it's safer to give the rig more space to slide up and away from the weeds. Fishing a naked chod rig is best on a heavy fluorocarbon or monofilament mainline. It's also helpful to fish it with a relatively slack line, to ensure the rig is not lifted off the bottom or pulled down into weeds by a tight line. Now let's move on to the lead core chod system. Thread your barrel bead, chod rig and chod sleeve onto a splicing needle. Slide these components onto your leader. You'll find the sleeve needs to be wetted to slide along lead core. Take a no trace bead and fit it onto the sleeve. Next, thread on a heli sleeve. These are not supplied in the lead core chod system. Splice the leader onto the quick link. This link will be used to attach your lead. Link on your chosen lead and you're nearly finished. We like to set our barrel just a short way from the lead and then the no trace bead up the line, further up in weedy conditions and closer to the lead when it's a little bit clearer. And that's it, a finished chod rig on a lead core or lead free leader. You've probably seen the no trace bead mentioned a few times and you might be wondering what that's all about. Well, should you be unfortunate enough to crack off when casting into the lake or snap your line whilst reeling in a carp, that no trace bead allows the swivel of your chod rig to slide up, push it off and slide all the way off your line, meaning that fish is not going to be trailing around your leader or your lead. Without a no trace bead, some people will use a split shot or a fixed bead to stop their chod sliding up the line. The problem with that is that should you snap up or crack off when casting, if a fish picks it up, it's going to be trailing around and dragging around the leader and the lead. At least with a no trace bead, it slides off the line, disconnects, and the chod can come right off, meaning that it is a safe rig. Before I go, I'll briefly discuss feeding whilst using chod rigs. The chod seems to work best when the fish are feeding between mouthfuls, meaning when they pick up your hook bait, they tighten up the line, lift your main line or leader off the bottom and come into contact with the lead, therefore hooking the fish. It doesn't seem to work so well when you're fishing over a bed of particles or a tightly baited spot of pellet or ground bait or small bits and pieces. The reason for that is they're grubbing around on the bottom and that chod doesn't really allow the hook to come into contact with the weight very quickly, meaning that the fish don't get hooked always. We've often had twitchy little bites when fishing chod rigs over patches of bait, whereas we get more regular absolute screamers when fishing either a single hook bait or over a scattering of boilies. So basically, we would advise the use of a chod rig in conjunction with a spread of boilies to encourage those fish to feed, pick up a bait, move on to the next. That tends to work best and ends up with more confident bites. Either that or use a chod rig as a tool to allow you to cast to showing fish. If the lake's quite weedy, you're not really sure what you're going to be landing over, you can whack a chod rig towards a showing fish, slacken off the line and be confident that you're presented well. The last thing to mention about chod rigs is it can be worth experimenting with the length. In the spring, we'll often fish quite long chod rigs with a brightly coloured pop-up, working a little bit like a mini zig. However, at other times when the fish are potentially more wary or they're not really up for a feed, you can scale right down, go really short and fish a subtle coloured bait or even a little ball of maggots or something like that popped up with foam and fish the chod really short, close to the bottom. That can often work in your favour and get you a few more bites. Good luck with your fishing, and we hope that the chod rig helps you get amongst a few more fish this year.